A freighter loaded with tamarin grain is due within the hour. Quark says Damar should have his eyes examined. And Odo got it bad for the female changeling. And a bonus, Cadet Nog is promoted to ensign. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 7th Rule with Cirroc Lofton.
Hello, hello.
My name is Ryan T. Husk. Today, we are doing a review of Season 6, Episode 5 of Deep Space Nine, Favor the Bold. It is a Nog episode. We are joined by Mochi the Cat and Malissa Longo.
Hello over there.
For those of you that are just listening in, Mochi is taking up about 2/3 of Melissa's picture and like eating a cricket or something. I don't know. How you guys doing?
It's paper towels. Oh. Right.
Who eats paper towels?
Mochi. It's the way to distract her from, clawing my face off.
By the way, this episode, Favor the Bold, is written by Ira Stephen Bear and Hans Beimler, and it's directed by Rick Colby. And this aired for the first time on October 27th, 1997. Oh, it was a simpler time back then.
1997.
I was just going to ask you, Cirroc, do you remember where you were in 97? I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. You were on set. You're right. You were right there in our TVs.
Yeah. It was a couple of episodes ahead of this one. It's funny because when you said Hans Beimler, I thought of Boimler, and I said, well, I wonder if that's a little tribute there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
now when I write Beimler in my notes, my computer autocorrects it to Boimler, which is just crazy.
Yeah. Rick Colby, director of this episode, another Rick Colby episode. And just as a little reference point of fact, when I look up Rick Colby, one of the other credits in his history is A Man Called Hawk.
Really?
So,
whoa.
Yeah, look that up, guys, and look, verify, trust but verify. But he is, he is a director that worked with Avery many years before DS9, and if I'm not mistaken, he's a German American, but he's also may have even come at the request of Avery. So maybe that's his entire affiliations. It's not an accident that he was brought aboard to be a director on the show.
Avery seemed to have quite the influence on the show in many ways. Like every once in a while, he's directing episodes himself. He's making suggestions, whispering in ears. Seemed like he kind of had his hand in a lot of different departments to make sure that the show was as good as it could possibly be.
And just like everybody else that they use them a lot. So once you were in the rotation, you were pretty frequently used. And LeVar Burton, Jonathan Frakes, all of these people that were in the heavy rotation as far as directing. And Rick Colby was definitely one of those guys. But yeah, excellent episode. I mean, it's nonstop right now at this point where you're just getting just magic after magic after magic, regardless of what scene it is. So it doesn't matter what coupling of actors that you have in the scene. It's just also juicy.
Yes, agreed. There's so much in this. I'm like, okay, and I like this, and I like this, and I like this, and I can't type this fast.
I know.
I can't type fast enough. And then there's one point where I'm like, okay, I'm going to stop typing because I just want to watch the episode.
Yeah.
Girl,
because it's so
same.
good.
I did this about 2/3 of the way through it. I was like, I got to just start enjoying these episodes, or the number one thing I'm going to miss is performances. If I'm taking notes on lighting, if I'm taking notes on all this great dialogue and all these important, writing and structural things, I'm going to miss acting. And where that happened to me was there's always the same person that makes me say, Brian, stop what you're doing, watch the acting. And it's Weiyun, it's Jeff Combs. And in this scene right here, for those of you listening in, it's when he's looking at the painting and it's hilarious. And I was like, Ryan, finish taking your notes and then go back and watch that scene from the beginning, because he's going to give you some juicy morsels that you cannot miss. And it was a great scene. There's so much going on in these episodes right now, right? There's like 6 different storylines in 6 different places all happening. And you forget, you go, oh yeah, I forgot that these guys are going on. Or are you going to say, Melissa, were you going to say you're just in love with the relationship between Odo and the female changeling?
Oh, no way.
That's what you were going to say. You're going to right. I ship them so hard right now.
Oh, no. Every time they're together, I'm like, oh, no, what are you doing? Come on, dude. Get it
Do you want
together.
to know the answer to that question? Because I can tell you.
I already know what they were doing.
Yeah, they said what they were doing.
I know. I actually thought about you, Cirroc, at the beginning there, where the female changeling is like, so that's how humans experience intimacy or solace. And she acted out of breath. I don't know if you got that, but she was like, whew, you really did something to me there, Tiger.
Yeah. It was only 3 days worth, it's a whole lot.
Oh my God.
3 days worth. Yes. But one of the things that I noticed, aside from the cringe of Odo's choices right now.
For 3 days straight.
For 3 days straight. Although he didn't know it was 3 days. But,
why does he get so horny in the middle of the war? Like, of all time, you had 5 seasons to get horny. Why didn't you do it like in season 2?
Hey, man, Odo got a Odo.
Yeah.
Well, why do you think
this is not
Cirroc, he's been alive for how many decades?
Yeah.
And he's never. So, I mean, he's like, wow, I like this new. It kind of makes me think of like an adolescent, teenager or whatever growing up that just discovers something. He's like, I can't get enough of this.
Well, he was floating along in the universe somewhere as goo for 100 years before Dr. Moore found him. So, Odo's old and now he's just beginning to experience things. So, yeah.
Yeah. It's a terrible time to hit puberty for Odo.
Yes.
Bad timing.
Bad timing.
Yes.
But there's so much going on, and what they've done such a very good job of doing thus far is bringing all of these storylines and building on them and building on them and building on them. And so there's so much layer when you finally get into these scenes. When you get into the Zeal scene, you know about the conflict and you know about the history. When you get into Weiyun, who's just fantastic about it, and he starts to talk about his own let's say faults, right? His lack of aesthetic appreciation and his lack of vision. So he's actually in some way, coming to his own questioning of his existence in some type of miniature way, which is another like growth in these characters that we keep seeing growth in each one of these characters. And it's just so lovely.
It happens so quickly. Like it feels like each episode is weeks long. In the universe of Deep Space Nine, and it's only 40 some odd minutes, and they're telling these stories, these rich, developed stories with a lot of characters, and revealing of characters, and how these characters are learning and growing and changing and being influenced by each other, and the relationships is incredible. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel like I've seen a whole season in this one episode, because it's so full of good stuff. So full.
And to piggyback off what you guys were saying in the beginning, I found myself doing the exact same thing. I was writing down all the dialogue, and at some point I said, wait a minute, I'm just going to rewrite the script. Let me just You know,
I know.
You're just taking notes of the script. Yeah.
I'm like, wow. And you know, the lines were great. I mean, when Nog comes in to see O'Brien and he's got the ensign uniform on and he's so excited, and you can see you know, his chest is puffed out. He's like, he's really feeling himself. He's like, you know, do you see what I'm wearing? It was like, I know you're looking at this, right? And he's so proud about it. And then O'Brien cuts him down right away.
Yes, that's a great line.
The line is so classic. I think he says, "I didn't realize things had gotten that bad around here."
Yeah.
And it was such a cut down, and it was like a deflated thing. But then he builds it back up, like, you know, congratulations, I'm proud of you. And then does the, you know, the break me down, build you back up again type of buddy relationship that they've had this whole time.
It's such a good I don't want to use demonstration, but that's all I can think of right now, of their relationship, and their relationship is banter. They banter back and forth, you know, nudge each other in the side and give each other a hard time, but you know, O'Brien's proud of him, and from the way Nog said, if only the guys back at my class could see me now, it seems like he was made ensign ahead of his classmates, so which is an achievement in and of itself. He should be proud of that.
I mean, of course he should be proud. First of all, he's on the bridge in the middle of the action. It's like being in the game in the fourth quarter when the game's tied. If you're in the game, it doesn't matter if you were drafted first or if you're a bench player. It means you're playing very well right now.
Doesn't matter who started. It's who's closing out on a close game.
And to me, that's Nog's experience, right? He may be the rookie. He may be the guy with not that much experience, but we see him on the bridge. He's at the station. He's manning one of the stations at some point. And so we see that he's given a lot of responsibility because they know that he's capable of handling it. And I believe that it's just tremendous growth in character. Damar has a lot of growth in this episode. We get to see, you know, his thoughts and, you know, how manipulative and conniving he is, and how much he hates Kira, which I love the fight scene.
I love their relationship. The tension is like, oh my gosh, I'm like, don't mess with Kira. She's,
I love how not one-dimensional the character is, but how single-minded and focused he is. You look at Dukat. Dukat is very conflicted. He wants Major Kira to love him. He wants the people to think of him as benevolent, right? He wants Zial to love him. In fact, it shows that he cares about what Zial thinks more than he cares about this war, because he's supposed to be planning this war and all he cares about is Zial liking him. But Damar doesn't have, I mean, he's got alcoholism, but he is single-mindedly focused. Like, he just wants to win this war. He wants to stick it to the Bajorans. He wants to go up in his ranks. Like, he is a soldier, you know.
He is a Cardassian through and through. Like, he says Quark is a credit to his race, but Damar is a credit to his own race. I mean, talk about totally what this guy represents is the Cardassian military and their thoughts.
That line that line with Quark though, when he said you're a credit to your race, Cirroc, I don't know if you were going to say that, but like, that was such a good line because it was half compliment, half insult. You know, he's kind of like complimenting him, but, you know, saying, hey, you're a shithead, which is just like the rest of your race. So you are a perfect Frankie.
There was zero compliment in it, I think.
Backhanded compliment is what I put in my notes.
It was a compliment to himself for being so manipulative and being able to, you know, make the Ferengi to give up the goods on information. But I really just to talk about character-wise for Damar, it was like the moment that he's about to tell Quark what's going on, there's a Bajoran sitting next to him at the bar, and the look that he gives him, like, get the hell out of here, right? Like you're not welcome here, was just, that pretty much summed up who Damar is, right? He doesn't respect the agreement with the Bajorans. He's just there right now, temporarily doing what he has to do until the moment comes when he can, affect his will on the situation. But I mean, the characters are so rich. There's so many things going on in this. For one, I just wanted to say something about Captain Dax. I thought she did a great job as leading the crew and being a captain for that time period that she was in this episode. She looked really authoritative. She looked confident, and I like the way she was. She seems constantly aware of morale. So she's constantly, she's in tune with her team as far as, are they feeling up or down about the way things are. And they carried that over from the last episode when she kind of did the whole photon tradition and laid it down. And she was talking about morale and trying to build the morale of the keep the morale up that Sisko had built. So I just like the way that she's so conscious and in tune with her squad, her team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, yeah, I love how she approaches the captain's chair differently. And I noticed that in the last episode too, when they were doing the whole tradition of the nacelle, putting it up against the wall, and she and Sisko said the same exact speech, but they both said it in their own way, and it had its own weight to it, and from each character's perspective, which was beautiful. And in the same when in the opening scene with her commanding the Defiant, captaining the Defiant, I was like, oh my gosh, she's so good at this. Good job, Dax. It's good to see her in that chair.
That's like a metaphor for actors too. You give two actors the same line, they're going to deliver it differently, and they're both going to bring some new meaning to it that you may not have considered. And that's what it's almost like they're two actors saying the same line, bringing their own personality into it. And speaking of an actor bringing personality into something, I wanted to talk about everybody's favorite boy toy, Gul Dukat. That charmer, boy, oh boy, oh boy. Yeah. He could charm the hat off a nun. So here's the thing. Yeah. We've noticed in the past how he says Bajorans instead of Bajorans, right? But what I hadn't noticed before is today he said the Jem'Hadar. I'm like, okay, this is a thing with him. This is not a one-time thing. He's calling them the Jem'Hadar and the Bajorans, and he probably likes peanut butter and jelly. Like, what's going on with this guy, man? So I wonder if that's a Mark Alimo thing, or if that's just Mark Alimo thinking, Gul Dukat, who knows? But that was just something I noticed, which was funny.
Yeah, and I had a note about Dukat too. He had a line in there where he was basically, you remember when he was instructing Damar to go and make sure that he goes to talk to his daughter. I need to meet with her.
Yeah.
But he has a line where he says, I want my daughter at my side. And the way he says it is in the same way that you would say that like about an animal. He doesn't have the same kind, like the way he wants things done is by obedience and, fall in line. It's not a earn your respect, earn your trust, earn your love. It's more of like, I demand you to do this. You stand here and you fall in line because this is what you're supposed to do as a daughter. And I was, and I'm obviously a great dad. So
bad dads, as you call them.
Yeah,
almost more about ownership than it is and optics
and how he looks.
Yeah.
Well, there was another line he said that I really liked, and And that was when when Weiyun was talking a little jive to Dukat, and Damar says he should talk to you with more respect. So you see that Damar still looks up to him. Damar isn't just gunning for the top spot. He is a loyal soldier. Like, he's loyal to Cardassia. He's loyal to Dukat. Everything else is an enemy, different degrees of an enemy. But when he says he should talk to you with more respect, Dukat gives a good chuckle. He says, someday I'll let you teach him that lesson. And I'm like, that's like Dukat throwing him a bone. Like, you've earned it, buddy. And when we wipe out the Dominion, I will give you the honor of cutting this guy's tongue out, or whatever it is. Beautiful, beautifully written. I love that.
Yeah. Again, ownership. You get to do what I say when I say it.
And this episode is a lot about ownership in some ways, because when Weiyun was challenged by Kira about having an appreciation for aesthetics, he got very defensive, and he said, the founders are never wrong.
Yes.
The founders are
yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? And so he's admitting to his own level of ownership by the founders. And Odo is clearly owned by the head founder lady. She is owning
She
him.
definitely owns part of him. That's for sure.
For the moment.
She's definitely got part of
she
him in her
literally
purse
tells
right
him
now.
to go.
I am.
She literally tells him to go run over there and play in the corner, and he gladly just hops over there.
He's like, okay.
For the moment.
Totally
he'll snap out of it. Spell.
Yeah,
He's under a
pray
spell.
that he does. I really pray that he does. I feel very bad for Zial. Zial has like so much pain inside her, because she is literally conflicted by both sides of her genetic makeup.
Yeah.
And it's so gut-wrenching to watch her kind of go through this process of having a crappy dad like that, and really having nobody who cares about you other than Kira. So it's like, it's kind of, I feel bad for her. I really do.
Yeah, she has a few bright spots. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. I was going to say, but the one redeeming thing is that even though I don't like the way he goes about it, there is still something about Dukat that he has a soft spot for her. Yeah. And I'm glad that exists, because it makes him gives him some redemption, some redeeming qualities, makes him like a sliver of human or humane.
Yeah.
Which is why he's such a good bad guy, because there are moments when you can empathize with him, but he's still, a crappy person.
You watch your mouth. Dukat is a sweetie. He's misunderstood. The way he loves Major Kira, he loves Zial. He treats Damar with kindness and respect. He bites his tongue around Weiyun, because he understands, that is the job that he must do. I mean, what more do you want from this guy?
And Ryan, when I watch these episodes, when Worf delivers a line, I always imagine you saying it now. It's crazy. I can't watch Worf say one of his classic Worf lines without imagining your impersonation of it. Yeah. And there was one in this episode where Sisko says, well, then, make sure you go and get, you lead your ship, or you go with him or something. And Worf says something like, you will have it done, right? Something to
and
one
you
of
shall
Worf
have it, or something like that. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't think I'd put that one in mind.
No, but it was, I think, and you shall have it, I think. And the way he says it, with the inflections that you impersonate, are exactly how he said it. So it made me just bust out.
I'm going to keep working on it then. I wish I'd written that down. I got to write down all the funny Worf lines. Well, we got a lot more to talk about. We got to take our break, including more about Weiyun and the picture behind me in that scene there. I did have one little nugget to talk about a little later. But there's so much stuff. We'll try to get to it all, including in the free-for-all. We'll be right back on the 7th rule, if you can believe that.
You're right, but not.
What were you saying, Melissa? Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the 7th rule. Melissa was comparing and contrasting the merits of the female changeling and Kira as to, who deserves to be Odo's partner. So we are doing a review of Deep Space Nine Season 6, Episode 5, Favor the Bold. And we are knee-deep into this because there's so much good stuff. So let's just get right back into it. Do you want to talk, Melissa, a bit more about Kira, Odo, and the female changeling, and the fact that Kira is getting destroyed? It's a blowout right now. She is losing to the female changeling in a huge way.
No. I mean, the female changeling is a novelty and will come and go very quickly. That was not meant to be a pun.
Wow. I just got that.
I know.
I just got that.
Malissa Longo.
Wow. But no, Odo loves Kira too much for this infatuation with the female changeling to last. So, and he's got the novelty of learning. Again, I say novelty of learning where he comes from and part of who he is. And I think that he's coming to realize at the end of this episode is that, yes, while the Great Link is a big part of who he is and where he came from, he's also realizing that the solids are part of who he is and where he comes from too, because they helped shape him into who he is today. And I think he's beginning to understand that, and going off of a line from last week's episode, to know a thing, to become a thing is to know a thing. And Odo's been a solid for so long. Part of him is starting to realize that he is a solid too. He's a changeling and a solid. So he's torn between two worlds, and he needs to snap out of the spell he's under.
No, he's happy. Just be happy for him that he's happy with her. In fact,
no.
There was I was just
No.
going to say there was one more really great part in that Afterglow scene that made it such a great scene, is when she says, she mentions Major Kira, and she says, and you regret not having it with Major Kira? She's still kind of, she knows, but she's still kind of testing. And he's like, I'd rather not talk about it, or something like that. Because I remember when she said that, my first thought was, oh, how is he going to respond to but then that's the perfect way to respond. He doesn't want to talk about it. He doesn't want to admit it. He doesn't want to deny it. But that, she senses that in him. And it's also kind of dirty too, where she's just like, I don't know. That whole scene just had so much subtext. It had so much good stuff. It was so beautifully written. But anyway, what were you saying, Cirroc?
No, I was going to say exactly that. And I wrote down in my notes because in that moment when she says, you wanted to do this with Kira, and he's like, I don't want to talk about it. And she's like, oh, I sense that you're uncomfortable about having this conversation. And his answer was what every guy answer is when they are very upset. They're like, why do you insist we talk about it then? It's like every guy that's getting cornered with some information, and they're like, I can see that makes you upset when I say this. And you're like, yeah, why do you keep asking me about it? And I'm upset about it. So that was one funny thing. I was like, that's the typical guy moment. He's really becoming a typical guy. He's cheating on the love of his life, and he's got excuses for things, like he doesn't want to talk about.
3 days with a new love.
He lost 3 days. But that was the other point I was going to highlight. Those are the things I think are making Odo wake up. Number one is when they came out of the thing, he was like, "Oh, I have to go to the meeting with the meeting with the council, Weiyun, and this and that." And she's like, "That was 3 days ago or whatever." So what it let Odo know was that she was aware that it happened 3 days ago, and that he was missing the meeting. So she was making him miss the meeting. So he was like, "Damn! So you must have known that you're making me miss the meeting because I wanted to go to this meeting, right?" That's the first kind of like I thought bell that went off in his head a little bit. Like, wait a minute, why didn't you say something? It's like you knew that I wanted. This is an important meeting. The other bell that went off in his head, I thought, in this episode was when the founder said, your life is way more important than any one of these solids. Like,
oh, great.
Right.
It was like it was like we could wipe out the entire solid society, civilization, all of them don't matter.
Yeah.
And at that point he was like, well, all of it's like, wait a minute, this is getting like, what's your plan exactly? What do you mean all of them? Like
what she said to Weiyun when she was like, she looks at him like he's just an ant. She's like, of course you're just being a loyal subject. And she's like, we would wipe out the entire Alpha Quadrant, or we would lose the entire Alpha Quadrant just to have Odo come home. Like, just telling him like, know your place. This whole thing is insignificant compared to this god here and me. Also, speaking of gods, War Dogheim, Jesse Taggart, and Chuck A right now in the chat are reminding us that I totally forgot to say the trivioids. Very sorry. Thanks. I'm going to hammer through them very quickly. Thanks, guys. And Anne Marie's in there too. Linda Anderegg is also telling us. Okay. Very quickly, the USS Defiant is a very effective decoy. Captain Sisko wants to retake Deep Space Nine. Garak thinks Starfleet intelligence has implanted a neural transponder into his brain to monitor his thoughts. Garak says it's a lot more fun asking questions than answering them. Morn doesn't want to attend his mother's birthday party. Odo is 3 days late for a meeting. Odo got it bad for the female changeling, as we know. Rom is scheduled to be executed. Grand Negus Zek has offered to buy Rom's freedom. Lita offers to work Quark's Dabo tables for free. A freighter loaded with tamarin grain is due within the hour, less interesting than the others. Quark says Damar should have his eyes examined. Great line. Jake Sisko is sending a message out to his dad via Morn. Captain Sisko plans to build a house on Bajor. That was a really cool line as well.
That was a moment. Cool,
Cadet Nog gets promoted to ensign. Damar wants to arrest Major Kira. Good luck with that. The USS Cortez is having trouble stabilizing the guidance thrusters in the port nacelle. Thank you. So about that grain that's being imported on the freighter ship.
Yeah, not too interested in it right now. I wanted to go back really quickly though to that scene that that's behind you, which I thought Weiyun, Jeff Combs murdered the scene. It was just it was just fantastic. It was beautiful, and I thought the moment that stood out to me was when he gets up. He's looking at the art. He's like, I don't have the ability to appreciate this art because, of my genetic makeup. And Kira kind of, rags on him a little bit. And then, but the whole purpose of her being there was to ask for Rom's release. And he is like, well, no, it's not going to happen, right? You guys try to destroy our whole plan. So no, he's going to get executed. And then she says, but he's married to a Bajoran. And that was her way of trying to argue for his, sparing his life or whatever, or release. And then that's where I believe Weiyun and Jeffrey Combs turns on this level of coldness that he's capable of delivering as an actor, which I thought was fantastic. And that's when he kind of says something, treaty or no treaty. She would suffer the same fate. And he's talking about Lita at that point. And the way he said it, the coldness in his delivery, like all the games are lost now, all the flirting and the talking about the art and Zial, all that is lost now. Now you can see when the moment comes, he's really cold about some of his decision making, right? He's so cold blooded in his approach.
Yeah, you're hitting on something just real quick that it almost seems like he's got a dial. Like he could turn on the charm to a 10 and then turn it off to a 0. And sometimes he needs the 10, sometimes he just goes for the 0. But yeah, that's a good point. I hadn't really thought about that. You were saying, Melissa?
No, I was just going to add to that it's almost like he's almost in a way he thinks like the founders do, in that everyone else is expendable. There's no attachment to anyone except for the founders, and he's that's the only reason he's here for. But you see little nuggets of him learning the way other people operate, but for the most part, he is only interested in being nice when it gets him what he needs or what he wants, and he definitely turns up that dial. And I love the fact that he refers to Rom as a diabolical genius, because
he's the only one that thinks that
is a diabolical genius.
Oh, I see the tie coming out.
I know.
I see a nitpick.
It's time for the nitpick, Mr. Number. So I was going to wait until the end for this, but since we're talking about Weiyun, and that's what this is in reference to what this is in reference, whatever, we got to hit it. So it goes a little something like this. Weiyun said that the founders didn't genetically enhance their eyesight and they have a really bad eyesight. But that's a bad idea because you need good eyesight to catch nonverbal communication, which is very important in diplomacy. And I have said it.
All right.
And Weiyun would have been pissed about that. He'd been like, no, they don't make mistakes, but I think they did.
All right.
Maybe they're just nearsighted.
Yeah, right.
Just get up close.
Yeah.
Oh,
he did make. Okay. I mean, he made a great line about his hearing. When they went across the room, he's like, bad eyesight, but really great hearing. And then, of course, his ears, the size of his ears, become really obvious when he says that. I wanted to just touch upon a little bit about Rom and Quark and the relationship they have and the kind of scenes they had together. I thought it was really good. The one line Quark said to Rom, he said something to the effect of, you don't think Big Brother Quark's going to let anything happen to you, or something like that. Yeah. And I loved it when he called himself Big Brother Quark. I was like, that's
so cute.
That was kind of sweet. But the line they had and the comedy that was in the lines when Rom's like, I'm going to die. And Quark's like, I said they were planning to execute you. It's not the same thing. And he's like, it is to me. That line, I was busting out laughing because I thought it was hilarious. And then you see Rom really when you think that he's become as much of a hero as he could possibly be, right? You're like, oh man, this guy is going to crawl into a tunnel, risk his freedom, try to do the deflector array. He's with it. He gets caught and he doesn't snitch anybody out. He doesn't rat anyone out. He could easily try to negotiate for his own, life. He doesn't snitch out the rest of the rebellious crew. And on top of not snitching them out and just taking it on the chin and whatever beatings and torture they probably been giving him, he even takes it one step further. This is why I say he just doesn't have a limit to how great he is as a human being, or just as a Ferengi being. But he takes it in the moment when Quark is like, I'm going to spring you out of here. I'm going to break you out of this jail. I'll figure a way out. He actually does an even more selfless thing and says, just focus on finishing the job I started so we can save the lives of all these billions of people.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was like, that just proved to me that Rom has the probably the most golden heart out of anybody on Star Trek. Because I don't know anybody who's going to go through all of that. You get kicked, you get beat, you get spit on, you get laughed at, you get called an idiot, and you still have this love for humanity that you're willing to sacrifice yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, this guy.
Oh,
no one.
Yeah. The one that's most underestimated is the one who's putting his life on the line for the entire Alpha Quadrant. and then he says, if that's what's written, that's what's written. And I'm just
great line.
Oh, Rom.
Yeah. that made me feel like we were getting a glimpse into almost like the religion of the Ferengi. To them, it's about like the divine treasury and the great river will provide. And there must be something to where they're like, hey, if it's written in a soul's contract or something, we just got a little bit more of a glimpse into what the Ferengi believe in, I feel like, with that line, which was great. And Chase Masterson as Lita was adding like the sadness at the same time as the comedy, kind of like what Rom does. They match they match each other's energy in a scene very well, of like half sad, half funny,
Yeah. Lita did a squeal in the scene that I actually had to do. I was like, did I hear a squeal? It was like a cry, scream, squeal. I was like, what is that sound? And she must have made that up because the sound is so original. Like, it wasn't a traditional whimpering cry type thing. It was like a squeal, I would say. Yeah. But I loved it because it sounded like her own version of her kind of, sadness and how upset she was. So I really enjoyed that little tiny thing that she invented, I think, sound-wise, to complement the scene.
And then, of course, there's a line in that scene, a little preceding that, when he says, when Lita says to Rom, "Have you lost your mind?" And Quark goes, "What mind?"
Oh yeah.
He's always zinging that poor guy. He's always
and then Rom
a little
shows
zing.
us what mind. It's a beautiful mind that he has.
Mm-hmm.
And then he said, Rom says to Quark, he says, "Billions of people are counting on you," and he says, "Boy, are they going to be disappointed." Quark's like, "Nah, I don't think so." I thought that was a funny line too. But Morn, of all people, is the guy that is entrusted to
save the Alpha Quadrant.
Yeah.
Who else?
Who else but Morn?
The ones that you overlook.
I do want to give now Morn played that scene beautifully. What acting. He just nailed his line. But I do want to say a little bit more love. We did mention Damar, Casey Biggs, but he acted the shit out of that scene when he was talking with Quark. And he says, when he says, "You're a real credit to your race, Quark," backhanded compliment. Then he says, "In 1 week in the Alpha Quadrant is ours." There was just and this is up to the director, Rick Colby, probably, and the DP at the time. There were some good close shots on Damar, and he had such great intensity in his eyes and intensity in his delivery, and also great kudos to the makeup department, because, as we all know, if you have these crazy prosthetics on you and they're doing close-ups, you don't want to see lines. You want to be able to just watch the performance. And that performance, I put in all capital letters, Damar is so good in this scene, especially because we haven't really gotten to see a lot of things that stretched his acting ability or showed off his acting ability. But this was one of the first scenes where I really was like, wow, great performance. So shout out to Casey Biggs. I feel like that was the first time so far that I've personally noticed, wow, no wonder they keep feeding him more lines. It's not just because the story dictates it, but as the writers always say, if the actor knocks it out of the park, they're going to trust him or her to knock it out of the park a second time and give them more.
Yeah, but what I do get is a consistency out of his performance. Like I feel like he's been consistently the same kind of character. I don't see any real change in his character, except that it's growing and getting more responsibility. But other than that, I feel like he's committed to the same attitude he's had when I first kind of showed up on the scene. He was the lieutenant, per se, to Dukat, the guy who was trying to always prove himself in front of Dukat, but also he's like the loyal number one for Dukat. So I always felt like that about him. But I did like his performances in this episode. I thought they were highlighted extremely well by the kinds of scenes he was given. And one of them was the scene that he had with Kira when he tells Kira, yeah, there's a ship coming in the dock with the grains, and I need you to make sure docking Bay 5 is open or something.
See, I knew you liked that grains line. You couldn't hide it. That is the most important line in the episode.
Well, what made it important was that you could see Damar was flexing his power over Kira in that moment. Like, I need you to do something for me right now. And even started with attitude. And Kira was like, yeah, right on it, sir.
Yeah.
Right? And gets up to go. Yeah. And he gives her, like, I think he says, yeah, you're going to have to change that attitude. You know, he gives her the attitude question, like, you better fall in line. When I give orders, I need you to accept my orders and take them with a smile. And, sir, yes, sir, with a smile.
Yeah.
And she comes back with, like, you don't like my attitude, then why don't you change it or something like that? Like,
you're welcome to try to change it.
I'll do it with a smile, but that's not what the smile is for. You'll see what the smile's for later.
Yeah. I thought it was a great scene. And even when he was snatching Zial up, he was like, she said, you better let go of her. And he kind of let go and turns around and is like, or else what? Right. And the way he delivered that line too, I thought was great. It was like, you want a piece of me? Like, is this the moment where you're going to be disobedient? Because I've been waiting for an opportunity to come at you.
There was also a good line there, like, I think right before that, when he says, just very dismissively and authoritatively, he just said, stay out of this, Major. And I was like, whoa, I don't know. That's stay out of this, stay out of it, please. I don't know, but you might trust me.
Yeah. She's the wrong one he's trying to tame, because it's not happening. I love that. Because she's not backing down, and I love that she doesn't back down from him or get intimidated by him. And in fact, it's more, okay, let's see what you got, because I'll kick your ass. And I did kick your ass.
She did. The dreaded two-handed
double axe handle. Yeah. She also did a backhand.
You know somebody means business when they do the two-hand.
I mean, what can you do? The only thing tougher than that's like the Dusty Rhodes elbow, right? So there was, speaking of which, there was one more thing. Cirroc, you mentioned Dax's lines earlier, and I think we were talking about that. There was one thing, maybe this is better for a free-for-all question, I don't know, but when Sisko comes back towards the end and sits back in his old seat, and Dax says, I've kept it warm for you. I was like, I don't know. Am I the only one that when I sit in a warm seat, I'm like, like I don't want to sit in a warm seat, and I don't want somebody bragging about how warm they've kept it for me. I'm like, I don't want to imagine where this heat came from. I don't want to know that. Anyway,
so funny,
maybe that's just me.
Because I thought of how you would react to that, her saying that,
really?
Ryan. Yes.
Well,
I don't know why, but
I actually looked at Sisko's reaction. He didn't seem pleased by it either.
Really? I missed that.
because he has
like
no
at
words.
ease, Commander.
No, he literally has no. I was waiting for thanks or something, and she's like, "I kept your seat warm," and I thought he was going to say thanks or something, but he literally looked at her with a sour face, like
don't
like how
remind me.
Ryan thought.
Yes. Sour face.
Yeah.
Can I just move away from this warm seat and then talk about one moment that I thought was really nicely shot? It was the moment when Kira and Quark are on the stairs talking about their little plot to free Rom, and I was like, it brought to mind the way that she made herself so small. It brought to mind of how she may have been in the resistance to hide herself from many dangerous situations, and the contrast of when she comes down the stairs and how much she opens herself up. It's such a wonderful moment of character to me, and the way that it was shot. I don't know, this closeness and this little bubble that Quark and Kira are in was really a nice contrast to when she opens herself up and she's big and she's ready to take on Damar.
Yeah,
which is so nice, and it's such a wonderful nugget, and I love that word nugget, of character, of Kira's character and where she's been and where she is and how far she's come. In a scene that's maybe a minute long, and it's just like that's all it took was that one moment of being closed off and then being opened up, and it was so beautifully done. I think I don't know if anybody else has. Yeah,
that's great. That's good. That's something that can be in the script. That's certainly something that is set up by the director as well, and that's something that the actress herself is almost diminishing herself as the scene calls and expanding her energy and her aura or her confidence or whatever it is, as the scene requires. We're going to hit our free-for-all in just a moment, but before we do, Jake Sisko guesses the IMDb score.
Oh man,
I know
this is a great episode. It's got to be. This episode has to be a 9. I'm going as far as a 9.
All right, and the answer is on the other side on the free-for-all, everybody. But before we go, we want to give a very special thanks to Carmen, aka Skillet, TJ Jackson-Bey out in Missouri, Yvette Blackmon, Tom, Homer Freezy out somewhere in New Yeezy, Eve England out in Wales, doctors Marie Segal and Susan B. Gruner, as well as #1 soccer fan Tim Baum, Titus Mohler, John Mann, Darlena Marie, Rex A. Wood, and Bill Victor Arucan.
Arucan.
We saved that till the end. All right, we'll
that.
see everybody on the other side on the 7th rule. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to a very special edition of the Free for All with Cirroc Lofton, of course.
Hello.
You also know Malissa Longo is here, but did you know that Eve England out in Wales is also here? So is TJ Jackson-Bey out in Missouri.
Yay!
Dr. Susan B. Gruner somewhere in northern Florida. And Mr. Goldu Scott, of course, in South Carolina.
We got it, man.
Okay.
Good.
You just feel like an Arizona guy. I don't know why.
That's sure. It's the same. Yeah. I've been there before, so there you go. Yeah.
Okay. So just to get us warmed up, before we get into too much, we were talking about how proud Chief O'Brien is of Nog that he got promoted to ensign. Who do you guys think is most proud of Nog for his promotion? TJ.
Dad.
Right? But does his dad even know?
Oh yeah, this is
good
a lot of
point.
stuff right now.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's in jail.
He's in jail. That's right.
He's in jail.
Facing down an execution. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that Captain Sisko is quite proud because he really went out on a limb sponsoring Nog to go to the academy in the first place. And so, he had faith in him after Nog convinced him. But, to see it, culminate into this probably makes Captain Sisko pretty proud.
Yeah. What do you think, Eve?
Oh, it's difficult. I think they're all proud because I think they all see Nog as, their kid, and they've all looked after him all the time. So I'd probably say all of them for different reasons, I think.
Mm-hmm. Safe answer. Very safe. What do you think, Sue?
Well, I would like to say all. I'm thinking it's quite a is comeuppance the right word? I mean, he started literally in the opening scene on the space station where he's stealing something.
Yeah.
And now look where he is.
Yeah.
Wow, people just won't quit bringing that up, will they?
That passed, man.
He's like, that was 6 years ago, man.
But it proves you can't judge people by their planet or their race or whatever.
Or even their past,
Yeah.
He really,
Yep.
like I said, he's commander material.
Goldu Scott, your thoughts?
I think everyone is definitely a very fair answer, but also he said, wait until my friend's back at the academy here. So that's telling me that it's only a couple of people on the Defiant, and probably Admiral Ross, who is amazing too, by the way. I can't say how awesome Admiral Ross is over and over again with his really cool belt. But I'd like to I'd like to think how Jadzia looks at it, because how many of the previous hosts were Starfleet? It was like, other than Curzon?
And
like
was Tarius? Was that Tarius part of
that
Starfleet?
died in the shuttle crash, Tarius?
Right.
Is that right?
Yeah.
I think so.
So
she's got an awesome perspective on obviously different lifetimes going and how it is to earn it in different lifetimes as well. So I'd like to know, but I think everybody's pretty jazzed. I do think O'Brien's got a special place there though, because
O'Brien has to call him sir now.
Yeah. Oh, man. I know.
Oh man.
Yeah.
He's not going to do that though. So yeah. Not chief.
Wow, that's true. Does he ever call him sir? I don't think he does. You're right.
Yeah,
He just calls him Nog. Yeah.
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 All right.
There he is.
So that whet our appetites a bit. Oh yeah. I noticed a couple people are wearing the walking arts made by Melissa. Maybe 3 of you. Scott, you've got the cool Ferengi head. Melissa's got the awesome Chat Pack shirt. Sue, do you have a red?
It's
Deep Space Nine.
Oh, nice.
You see what it says?
Picard. Picard never hit me. Right?
I'm not Picard. Yes.
That's the one. Picard never punched me. And Eve, you've got the Chat Pack cool shirt. So if any of you want, I'm wearing a Lambda Quadrant shirt, by the way. Shout out to Lambda Quadrant.
Woo-hoo.
If any of you want these shirts from Walking Art made by Melissa, or our spring store, our online store bracelet, check it out in the description box below. We've got the links for all of those. All right, let's have a little bit more fun. This is such a good episode. Who wants to start and just talk about it? Just throw stuff out at us. Sounds like Scott.
I don't know if I could throw so much stuff out more than just continuing with my disgust about Odo and the founder there. I could just we went on with that last episode. Oh, the sloshing.
Only this
I will
time
say,
it wasn't sloshing.
It was
She
like a
said,
long.
so that's how humans and Bajorans.
Oh.
Solids. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
how
That sounds
solids do
solid.
it.
Real solid.
Mhm.
We've got
Yeah.
some
Yeah.
Solid
safe
as a rock.
Oh boy. But I did notice, and not to bring anything down, but Odo not like losing time like that. I was I caught some parallels to alcoholism with that, and how you just lose weekends at a time, because I can't even begin to explain those stories. They're horrifying. But yeah, like he pops up and he's like, "Wait, what? And I think that's when he started having his come to the prophets moment. There was like, oh crap, I lost 3 days. What? And then that's one of my favorite Kira moments, when she straightens him out in that hallway. And she's just, shut up, I'm done. And she's just out. And that was one of my favorite Kira moments right there.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's wild.
I have
She
a
was out.
nitpick.
Ooh.
Small nitpick. That's a small one. Initially, when they were flinking, Odo told Kira that the female founder, couldn't read his mind, or were not in those words exactly, but that she wouldn't know that he was part of the plan
Resistance.
to take back the station. But yet she picked up that he loved Kira.
Yeah.
But maybe that's because he wasn't actively trying to hide that he loved Kira as much as he was actively trying to hide that he was part of the resistance.
Well, he didn't want
Not
to talk
sure.
about it.
No.
Right.
He was a little shy about that.
Hmm.
Sue,
And I have a question too.
Yeah.
It's to bounce off the flinking.
Oh man.
Bounce off of it.
Oh, what?
It's like a off the backboard.
As long as she didn't use the piggyback term that we're always using when we're talking about, we just want to piggyback off of
wondering
the.
if changelings sweat. Do they sweat?
Huh.
Oh man, now I can't get that out of my mind.
And then do they have to like collect it so that they don't get smaller? Like
Put
they
it
don't want to
back
like
in.
lose it, and they put it like in their
Do
bucket
they
and
lose
save it
some
for
of
later.
themselves?
Oh,
Oh
gosh.
boy.
Sweat reclamation unit. Yeah.
I think the answer has to be no, right?
I hope not. I hope the answer is no. I don't. Ugh.
And how do they make little baby changelings? We know that they're sent out, but no, do we? Have I forgotten?
No.
How
I don't
do
think so, no.
How do they make? Do they take a piece of themselves on that? Like what is it? What is that little thing?
Osmosis.
What is that little thing she says?
I'm talking about the little thing that you can cut pieces off. It's a microscopic little organism. I'm just having a senior moment right now. But you can cut them up and they grow other pieces. They grow onto a full blown
paramecium or something.
Didn't a starfish
like
do that as well?
something like that.
Or like
So
a
how do you get it?
salamander?
Well, they grow. They can grow
They
them themselves.
They grow it back. But doesn't a starfish? Can't you cut a starfish and it'll make
I
two
think so.
starfish?
Yeah.
Well,
That's also a thing.
But clownfish can change gender, so maybe there's a way to do that part.
So can people nowadays?
I'm wondering if the female founder can get pregnant.
Yeah. Well, and do they decide whether they're going to be male or female, or is it?
I don't even
like
know that they have a
specific
gender. I
or
think their
snails,
gender is
I should
just
say snails.
what
It's
shape
pretty
they
cool,
decide
actually.
to take.
Yep,
Take,
I think
right?
so
Yeah.
too.
Yeah. So I mean, we call her the female changeling, but she may not. That's just the form she decides to take. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Just our perception of them.
Did they use protection? Because I
They can make one, right? They can.
I think Odo could just create the extra layer on top.
That's if they can make clothes, why not that?
Yeah,
that's true. He became a blanket.
Yeah,
he did
become
a blanket.
a flondum.
and oh gosh. And the other question was, who was the one that asked to do it? Like, was it?
Yeah.
Because I think that makes a difference to me. Was it her that wanted to feel
I think so.
Probably. Because she was probably like, what does Major Kira have that I don't have? And I was like, well, since you asked.
Yeah, maybe that's why she chose female, just so that that's the way to get closer to Odo. And then getting closer to Odo by doing what solids do.
Oh man.
and really quickly, one more thing. Couldn't she theoretically turn into Kira and make it that much better for him?
Ooh, that would be so creepy.
Let's all just assume that she did. What do you mean? Of course she did. She's so like, creepy. You don't need Kira. Who else?
Anybody you've ever met. Yeah.
Wow.
It's quite a skill.
Wow.
Yeah.
This is a fanfic I didn't need.
I see that was the main takeaway from this episode.
I think Cirroc needs to lead us in the changeling the changeling love lives class.
Yeah,
this is an obsession.
Yeah, because I think that would be a question if I was Kira that I would be curious about, whether it was her that asked for it or him, because I think that makes a slight difference to me about the level of cheating that he's engaged in.
Cheating.
I guess they're not together technically, so he's not cheating if they're not together, but it feels like cheating for some reason.
It does, doesn't it? Yeah.
It does feel like cheating.
It definitely does, yeah.
He's cheating on the whole alpha quadrant.
Yeah.
And beta.
Yeah.
All of us. Thanks, Odo.
Well, Eve, do you have any thoughts on this subject or any cool notes in your awesome companion book?
Oh, I've actually got the script for this one.
Ooh.
Cool.
Oh wow.
Oh man.
Green, obviously. Yeah, that was pretty cool. And I was flicking around, looking at that when I was watching it, and it was pretty. It must be a fairly late draft as well, because it was pretty similar. I haven't actually read ahead. There's not a huge amount on these chapters, but I think it was just talking about how you've just got these 6 episodes that all come together. And one thing I was going to just say, I mean, you've probably talked about this in the episode, but just Kira is just so cool in this episode. She is just a complete legend. And I was just like, every time she's on the screen in this episode, she's doing something incredibly brave, or, just absolutely, she's just hard as nails. Is, when she's squaring up to Damar, is just, that first bit. And then, when she beats the shit out of him is just absolutely hilarious. It's the best bit in it. I just thought, amazing.
Wow.
Yeah.
For those of you keeping score at home, that's 2 times that Eve has cussed today. What were you saying, Cirroc?
I was going to say, did just the makeup job on Damar when?
Oh, it was so great.
Yeah.
After he beats, you could see the bruises on him. I was like, oh, he's got the bruises.
All the way down his jaw. So
yeah.
Just purple the whole side of his head. Just purple.
Yes. Great makeup job.
What did you do to Zial?
Yeah, I was looking for some damage on him. Yeah, so I'm glad that they did put the damage on there.
There were some cool details in this episode too. I liked the part where Weiyun is looking at Zial's drawing.
Oh, yes.
And the background music at that point, when they have him looking down on the light board that he has the drawing on, it was flutes playing in the background. I thought, how interesting. It was such a perfect sound to have with him trying to figure out if they're any good, the painting. And that's the scene. The music was really great. It was this flutes. Where's Katie? Because I think she likes flutes, doesn't she?
Yep.
I didn't even notice the
Katie
music. That's a good call. I missed it.
I was thinking, what happened to that piece of art? Like whatever became of that? Whose hands is it
Somebody
in?
bought it at that auction in 2007, I bet.
Yeah, that was what I was thinking. What takes that?
I thought it's really interesting as well when they were talking about, and I don't know, you just kind of got an insight into Weiyun and the Vorta then, in terms of, that there's certain things that they just don't feel or don't appreciate, and it sort of just adds that other layer to how manipulative the founders are, that they do just create things for their own purposes, and I just kind of got this moment of, you just felt a bit sorry for Weiyun when he just couldn't really appreciate this art at all, and when he's saying he wants to be able to sing a tune, and I was like, that's just quite sad, and just he just probably doesn't have much pleasure in his life, and he just lives to do the bidding of these founders. And I thought that was just adds that extra layer of sinister sort of factors to the female founder and everything that she's doing at the moment. I quite like that.
Do you have a purple streak in your hair, Eve?
Oh yeah, I do.
There it is.
Wow,
Wait.
So
There
great.
it is.
I love it.
That's nice. That's very nice. Very nice.
Yeah, it looks good.
There's some here as well somewhere. Yeah.
It reminds me of the color of that female Vorta's eyes in the ship or whatever episode that was, when they're down on the planet, and she had those lavender eyes. We just put Scott to sleep. Oh,
You have her, yes.
That's how I was thinking.
Well, I can't remember what her name is.
It's not Molly Hagan. It was the other one.
Yeah.
She had the powers, right? She had one of the powers, the psychic powers.
Caitlin
early
Hopkins.
Yes.
Okay.
Caitlin Hopkins.
Our good friend Caitlin Hopkins, that makes the really good throat drops.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what I got? I bought the uniform that she wore in Voyager, where she played
so cool.
Janeway.
I have
Wish Janeway.
Yeah, I have the uniform. It's really big on me. I have to have it altered, but it came in the oversized communicator, and she had boobs. Bigger boobs than that. It's really big here, but I found it, and it's hanging in my closet.
Wow, that's pretty awesome.
Nice.
Oh yeah, man.
Yeah.
So everybody at home that was wondering, where the heck did that uniform go? Now you
Yeah.
We don't know where
They've been wondering for
know
20
where that
years.
uniform is.
Bottom of that one.
Actually, I found this today, and I was thinking when I found it, I was like, "Oh, let me just pick that baseball up," because I had just watched the episode, and the baseball was on the desk again as usual in Dukat's office. So I was like, maybe that's a sign. So let me pick up this baseball.
That's so cool. You were just like out on a walk, and it was just on the ground, or what?
Just out on a walk, out on the ground. So I decided to take it home and wash it up a little bit, make it my own. My Sisko ball.
Yeah.
The internet's losing its mind right now, seeing you tossing that ball around, dude.
Mhm.
That's it. Internet's gonna lose its
Something
mind.
fun
now.
about a ball in your hand.
Yep.
Yeah, I noticed that shot too, where it just kind of like had the ball in the foreground and Dukat in the background. It was really cool. Speaking of Goldu Scott, what are your thoughts on this episode, by the way? Any additional thoughts?
Well, I like we were just talking about with the eyesight being genetically bred into him to be bad. That definitely does. Because do I remember that when the founders had come across the Vorta, they were like barely out of trees?
Yeah.
Like they were primates at that point. So their evolution was engineered, literally.
Yeah.
So how twisted is a group of people that are going to purposely give this primate group bad eyesight, but make them immune to drinking poison?
Right.
Like, you have
And have
become
good
a
hearing.
tool, and that was it. You
and
have great
have good-
hearing,
Yeah.
but how great was their eyesight way back? Because it made me think about Saru's people. and how they had de-evolved to not have those spikes anymore, to be, held down by the other race that was on the planet. I don't know, the slime guys floating around, which they're all cool now, but yeah.
Yeah, the Baum.
So I'm wondering what the Vorta would have evolved on their own like. And was that poison immunity genetically bred into them, or is that natural too? And how scary is a race as smooth talking as they are that can, have all those great senses and all those ups to them naturally? And maybe that's why they were the first few that were taken out by the Dominion and turned into whatever they are, because they had too much potential.
And the story goes that there was a changeling that was being chased by hunters or something, and the Vorta, the original Vorta, who were little ape-like animals that lived in trees and existed on nuts and berries, saved and hid the changeling from the people who were chasing it. And so it, as a reward and a thank you for saving the changeling's life, they elevated the Vorta into what they are today.
That's really cool. Do you guys think,
car salesman,
if there was like a second sense that they had, very poor use of, would it be smell, touch, or taste? Because I think their smell would be super heightened, so they could smell if somebody's like nervous, and that would make them even more like snooty, because then they wouldn't like people as much.
Smell and taste go together. But
yeah,
good point.
Wasn't Quark complaining that they didn't eat anything or do anything in the bar?
Jem'Hadar for sure. I don't know about the Vorta. We haven't seen the Vorta eat anything, right?
Yeah,
and just drank that one thing of poison, so that's the only consumption ever. Drinking that poison liquor, and then you lose your sense of taste, how much poison you drink. So maybe they lose that on their own.
TJ Jackson-Bey out in Missouri. Did we get all of your thoughts on this episode, by the way?
Well, I did not get a chance to watch it again, but
you remember
what I remember. I do remember it. There are a lot of good moments in this episode, and I do like, as Golden Scott was saying, how they keep dropping these different traits of the Vorta, and we get to learn more and more about them through Jeffrey Combs' awesome performances. He's a super slick, lemon car salesman with all these traits, but you just have to love him because of the way that Jeffrey Combs, I think he specified that that's the correct pronunciation. The performance that he delivers makes the character, lovable, even though he's the bad guy. And that's the thing we see often in Deep Space Nine. We like Dukat, and then we don't like him. We like Weiyun, but he's trying to kill the Federation. So that's interesting. That's one of the things I love about the writing and the what the cast brought to Deep Space Nine, is that they made us love all the characters, no matter what part of the story they were in.
Yeah. I mean, look at Damar, Dukat, Weiyun, Kai Wynn. Although I don't know, Cirroc. I think you just flat.
I don't think anybody likes Kai Wynn. Nobody likes Kai Wynn. We
Kai Wynn
love Louise Fletcher, but we don't like Kai Wynn.
Louise Fletcher is brilliant. She's amazing. Yes, absolutely.
Yes,
amazing to make you feel such a pure, driven hatred for characters.
I had two quick comments. The first one is that I believe Nog is the most proud of Nog.
Yes,
fair.
Very
fair.
That was my backup answer.
Because he knows what he had to go through and the kind of hurdles he had to jump through and jump over in order to make this kind of a 180 in his life. So I think he's the most proud of himself for not turning out to be like everybody else in his entire race of people. So that's the first thing. And then the other thing is, when you guys were talking about the kind of genetic adaptations that were forced upon the Vorta and the Jem'Hadar by the founders, it made me think of what kind of alterations they would make to the Bajorans and the Cardassians down the line.
Wow,
because
that's fun.
It would happen for sure. It would happen.
Yeah.
Right. Eventually, they would say, "You guys you have too much of this or not enough of that, and we're going to take this thing away from you for our own, to keep our own position solidified." So I imagine they would probably do something to the Cardassians and maybe make them addicted to some kind of ketamine, or make them have some kind of exposure to their strength, whatever their strengths are, kind of reduce those things.
That's really cool. I want everybody that's watching right now to give us in the comments below what you think of that. What do you think they would do to the Bajorans and Cardassians? Because that is really interesting. I'm thinking the Cardassians, they might make them kind of like lieutenants between the Jem'Hadar and the Vorta, to where like the Jem'Hadar would be more like the foot soldiers, and the Cardassians would be more like in the ships. But as far as actual physical enhancements or changes, that's really, What would they do to the Bajorans?
Oh, something to make them faithless. That's for sure.
Or have them change their faith.
I thought they would probably be
redirect
some founder religion. Yeah.
Right. Redirect their faith towards the founders.
Yeah.
Well, that's a lot to think about. But we're all out of time, so
think about it tonight.
Yeah, so we'll take that conversation into the comments below. And everybody, if you're watching, go ahead and give this a like. Please don't forget to subscribe. Feel free to go to our Patreon page. That's patreon.com/the7th-rule. Join in the fun with us. If you're listening in, give us 5 stars and tell your friends or your Star Trek acquaintances. That's even better, right? Who knows if your friends watch Star Trek? Anyway, thanks very much to Eve, Melissa, Sue, Scott, TJ, for myself, for Aron Eisenberg, for Cirroc Lofton, the king of funk. Thank you all for joining us. And always remember, you guys were just going to leave me. You're like, that's dumb.
No.
Always remember the 7th rule.